Hello and welcome to the Profitable Coach Podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Rich, and as the founder of the Bold Life Movement and a fellow coach for more than 7 years, I know the challenges that many of you face when launching or growing your coaching business. And I'm here to pull back the curtain on the coaching industry and help you overcome roadblocks to make the impact you were born to make. Each week, I'll be interviewing successful coaches from every corner of the industry to share exactly how they have managed to generate massive impact and income. From strategy to psychology, we cover it all. This show is presented to you by Transformation Academy, a global marketplace of courses and coaching certifications. So whether you are already part of our epic community or you're brand new to this show, if you're ready to learn what it takes to turn your passion for service into a profitable business, then keep listening. You are in the right place. Welcome back to episode 42 of the Profitable Coach Podcast. And today I'm joined by Tasha Ina Church, who, if you are familiar with the TA library, has a number of programs already within the Transformation Academy community. And she has a brand new program coming out soon all about self-care. So I'm really excited to dive in today with Tasha because she has really created quite a presence for herself in the empowerment portion of the coaching community. And the reason is she was destined to teach this. She's had some really traumatic life events that sort of led her down this path and helped her to discover this purpose. And she does it in a way that is so unique and so creative. So I'm really looking forward to sharing with you some of her methods for moving her coaching practice online, keeping things creative, positioning self-defense and empowerment in a way that no one else in the industry is, and then to talk a little bit about her upcoming program, all about self-care, inside the TA community. So if you're excited, keep listening, and please welcome the one and only Tasha Church. Hello, TA community, and welcome back to the Profitable Coach Podcast. I am joined today by the one and only Tasha Church. Tasha, welcome to the show.
Aloha, everyone. Nice to be here.
I'm excited because Tasha is actually going to be joining the TA family very soon and hosting one of our much sought after live programs. So it's really cool for me as one of the head coaches and the podcast host for TA to get to drop in with you and to share your journey with this community so that they can get more intimately acquainted with you and all the amazing things that you have to offer this community. So with that, I would love to hear what was like the catalyst moment for you to discover that coaching was something you just had to do. Everyone has that moment where they're like, I think I'm supposed to be a coach. Like, I'm going to pursue coaching. I would love to hear what that was for you.
Well, there were lots of different pit stops along the way. My parents are both teachers. And so they kept on saying, oh, you're going to be a great teacher. And all of their friends were saying, oh, you'd be such a wonderful teacher. And I did not want to be a traditional teacher. There was just no way. I just thought, no, this is not for me. Sitting in a classroom, talking to people. There's so many relevant things that people need to learn in their lifetime that I don't think you can actually get in a classroom. And so, based off of my lived experiences, I just started realizing that people were coming to me and asking me questions about life and asking me how to do certain things. With my empowerment coaching, I teach empowerment self-defense and have had a lot of history with that. And it was just really amazing. And I got asked to do a program at a school and they said, we need you. And so I was thinking, oh my gosh, okay, well, let's make this happen. And we literally put together a program within a month and started doing a girls program at a school. And it was just like I had arrived. This was the most amazing thing. And I loved it. It was sort of a dream come true. And so I started that business and eventually ended up moving here, started a business here. And I think that this is very true for so many different coaches where you have this moment where you're just going, oh my God, if I'm supposed to be doing this work, please give me a sign.
100%.
It's just like, oh my gosh.
I still have those moments.
Yes, it's like, oh my gosh, nobody's showing up to my classes, or people would show up to my classes, yay, wonderful, amazing, and then no one would show up. And it was just so discouraging. And so I had this moment where it was just like, universe, God, whatever, I need a sign to tell me that this is what I'm supposed to do. Because if not, I'm just going to go into the corporate world and, give my life away.
Yeah. Sell my soul, no big deal.
So I had a woman, she came into the session and I said, well, it's just going to be you. And she goes, that's all we need. I'm so excited for a private session. And so I ended up doing this session with her. Something had happened to her 20 years before at Knife Point. It was very intense. She did not get out of the situation. She said, I just wish I would have known what to do. And so I spent the hour with her going through all of these different techniques, how to use her voice, different things that she could use in the future. And she looked me straight in the eye and she said, everyone needs to know what you are teaching. Everyone needs this. And then she told me that she was an influencer online and she sold online women's health courses for a living, and that she would teach me the methodology on how to do online courses. And this was way back 2017, 2018.
Yeah.
I worked with her and put together my first online course, and it was a game changer for me, for sure.
I love this. So what was it that pulled you towards this particular flavor of empowerment? I have a story that this is like a really interesting layer of your origin story, because there's so many kinds of empowerment coaches out there, but self-defense empowerment is like really specific. So tell me why that's something that you felt called to teach or coach on.
For sure. So for me, I had a stalker when I was 15 years old. And it was a very interesting situation. It was someone who I knew. He was a family friend. And it just started getting more and more intense. And I realized I really needed to stick up for myself. And I went to one of my family members and I told them what was happening. And they said, I just can't do anything about this. They're saying that you have a crush on them. You need to, figure this out. And for me at the time, I really didn't want to tell my parents what was going on. And so I was just heartbroken and trying to figure out what I needed to do for myself. And I thought, it has to be me. I have to stick up for myself. And so I went and called this person up and I said, you need to stay away from me. You cannot come near me. And I went through this list of all the things. I was like, you're not allowed to be in the same room with me. And I got cursed out. I've never had so many explicits. It was so scary. And I just thought, if I was in the room with this person who was like ex-special forces military, over 230 pounds, over 6 foot tall. I'm like 5'4". If he had taken a swing at me, I would have been a goner. And so I joined a martial arts school and I decided to take, 6 months, and 6 months turned into 8 years. And that was the start of it. And then I had a tipping point when it came to me being a woman in the field of self-defense, because I was learning from predominantly men at a martial arts school. And my outlet, I would do 5 nights a week martial arts, but I love to go salsa dancing. And I went out salsa dancing and I would do that also so many nights a week because it was so fun to just be free and dance and move my body. And I actually got roofied by one of the top salsa dancers in Seattle. And I was taken from the ballroom that I was at to this person's house. And so I had an hour in between the ballroom and this person's place where they lived. And that hour was my saving grace, because basically I couldn't move from the ballroom until I got to the home. Then they carried me up to this room and I just kept on telling my body, you need to move. You need to move. And so when the person left the room, I went and I grabbed my keys, and he came back into the room, and I hit him in the face with the keys, and I ran out the door, fell down the stairs, and drove myself home. And as I was driving home, I thought, oh my gosh, I didn't use anything that I learned in my martial arts school. And I just started thinking, how many women deal with this stuff on a day-to-day basis? I was at a ballroom, people go to clubs, they go out, for a night on the town, they go to lounges, they want to just have a fun night. Nobody's dressing up to say, okay, well, I better prepare in case if somebody tries to assault me. That's never a thought,
Yeah.
So for me, I started thinking about a curriculum for women and girls and what they would normally wear, on a day-to-day basis. What's like the most compromising position that they would be in, and how can you defend yourself with it? So I went through over 800 self-defense moves with my self-defense partner while wearing 3-inch heels and a dress. And I came up with the moves that actually worked best in that situation, and I put them into a curriculum. So that was the very start of me realizing, I want to teach women and girls. And then it's obviously expanded to all genders, but just thinking we all have things that we've been through. And so I think that it's so important for us to be able to honor that past, understand that that happened, and then create a plan for the future so that we can protect ourselves and also feel very empowered within who we are.
Yeah, wow. One of the big takeaways that I'm having listening to your story, well, one, you're a phenomenal storyteller. I think that in and of itself makes you a good coach and a good marketer. So pay attention, listeners, get good at stories. But also the idea that you are looking at your past, not from a place of victimhood, but from a place of, why did this happen? How can I use it? How can I help other people to not have to go through that? That in and of itself, for me, is empowerment. Like, that's empowerment 101, is not allowing anything external to make you a victim. And I'm just very inspired by your story. And I think that you're like a genius at reverse engineering what it is that has brought you safety or joy or, whatever the desired new emotion is. And I'd love to hear how you started to transition this curriculum to something that you could teach remotely. Because I have the story that maybe at first it was in person.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So please.
Oh, yeah. So as shared, this woman who I met who was an online course creator, she obviously didn't do what I did, but she gave me this methodology for being able to teach online. So I literally created a course in a day. My first course was in a day with her guidance, and then these two friends of mine, a mother and a son, and I had him attacking her and her defending herself, and it was really amazing. And during the next few years, I was really trying to make it more so in person, like, oh, I can do this. I really wanted to start doing these workshops at gyms or workshops at resorts, because I live on Maui. So I was thinking, oh, I can do this. I could do this full time. And then 2020 hit, and hardly anyone in my industry actually had online courses. And so I revisited my online course, and I was actually inspired, sadly, because of the statistical data. It said that that our domestic violence rate in Hawaii had skyrocketed 46%. And so I decided to give away 46 of my courses, my online courses. And as I was doing that, I just realized, a lot of the stuff that I had 2 years before, I had done so much training. I've done so much training since then. And I had all of these new skills, and I really needed to create a course that was relevant for the times. And I think that, when you have something in you and you want to do an online course or you want to do an online offering, tapping into what is relevant right now and how can you utilize that along with your passions and merge those together. And so I happened to be hiking this beautiful waterfall with my partner, and I had a fanny pack on, and I was trying to get down, and my cell phone fell out of my fanny pack, landed on my foot, and it was dangling there, and I tried to grab it. It ended up falling into the pool of water. It was, I looked at my partner, I was like, my life's in there. You need to jump in. So he's diving. He looked like one of those wet cats that was really angry and sad. And we look over at this guy who's meditating on a rock, and he looks like a giant. And my girlfriend's like, gosh, it would be so nice if somebody could help us. And superhero moment, dun, 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 ma'am, where did you last see your phone? And I point, and he, brings it, dives down, comes up with my phone. He's acting like he's having conversation. And I'm just staring at him. Obviously, my girlfriend's staring at him for a different reason, but I'm staring at him thinking, wow, you look like the perfect person to beat up.
To be in my videos.
Right? Yeah. And so I ask him and I say, hey, I'm doing this thing, and I'm trying to get the word out about the knowledge and the skills that I have. It's so important. And I just really would like help. Is this something you'd be willing to do? And he actually said, I will help you. My sister had an incident, and if you're willing to help her, I would love to help you with this project. And it was just this amazing, kind of divine moment where I thought, okay, everything's in alignment, and all these things went into place. And so, that was the start. And then, of course, I had my friend, who happens to have the same exact name as one of the owners of the Transformation Academy. And I thought, oh my gosh, I need to be on there. And so I sent a message and said, look, I've got everything. I've got the workbook. I've got the videos. I need someone who knows how to get this out there to the world. And it looks like you do. And it was just this amazing moment where I reached out and I ended up getting a message back, and we launched it in 2022. So April 2022, we launched my self-defense course with the Transformation Academy. And it was just a dream come true to get it out to so many people.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that I'm really curious how you overcome what is the word that I'm looking for? I wonder if people don't want to invest in self-defense because in this sort of like personal growth, spirituality community, there's a lot of toxic positivity and
Yes.
the desire to never look at something negative because then you'll call it in. And so I'm wondering how you speak to that in terms of educating people on the benefits of having self-defense in your back pocket.
Absolutely. So I do get that a lot, especially in the field that I'm in, because I'm also doing self-care coaching and I'm talking to people about self-empowerment, and I understand where they're coming from in the aspect of manifesting different things. But when you come to a self-defense workshop, you are manifesting a plan to protect yourself. You are manifesting your own empowerment and understanding that you are creating this safe space for yourself. And so for me, I'm not teaching people, here's what you do, if this scary thing happens. It's like, no, how do you create abundance within yourself so that none of that actually comes your way. And for me, I come for empowerment self-defense, it's very holistic. So I'm talking to people about how do you communicate with people? I want to broaden our spectrum when it comes to self-defense, because we think of self-defense, we think of punches, kicks, blocks, someone, the stranger danger, somebody robbing you, or coming and trying to get you from your car. And we're not thinking about the day-to-day stuff. Like, how many times have you dealt with sexual harassment from a coworker or a boss? How many times have you had to try to negotiate pay? How many times do you come across a situation where someone is gaslighting you? How do you deal with that? We don't think of self-defense in those terms, but we should, because isn't it affecting us in a major way?
Yeah.
And so for me, when I'm coaching people, I'm not just taking into account, here is, the place that you grab, this is what you do. No, I'm talking to people about, how do you communicate with someone so that you prevent a physical confrontation from happening? Because 75% of all physical confrontations, they can be completely avoided through verbal communication in the feel out stage. And a lot of people don't necessarily know that. Walking away. How many times do we get so adrenalized in our trauma responses? If you have a trauma response of fight because that's all you've known as a child is to fight back, but the actual response you need is to step and walk away, you're doing yourself an injustice. So understanding our own trauma responses, it's huge. And so I talk to people a lot about just having that knowledge and tapping in and asking yourself, what do I need right now in this situation? And how do I feel about the way this person's talking to me? So then you can be more in tune with yourself and follow your intuition as opposed to a knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah, I love it. I've heard the saying, the best defense is a good offense. And it almost sounds like you're helping people to create an emotional and energetic offense, which is just a way of being that sort of doesn't allow things like that into your field. And maybe at some point that would mean physically blocking, but maybe most of the time it's like an emotional, energetic, or communication-based prevention, really. And
Absolutely.
I think that's really powerful.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
So I'd love to hear, what are some of the different modalities and mentors that you've sought out to keep growing in this empowerment space? I know you have kind of an interesting story, both living on Hawaii and with some of the mentors that you've reached out to. So I'd love to hear more about that.
Oh, of course. So, whenever I think of mentors, we'll first start out with my folks, my parents. They're just amazing. And my mom actually used to teach self-defense in the 70s. So go mom, yes.
Amazing.
And she actually was one of the first people in the Pacific Northwest area, her and my dad, to be certified in nonviolent communication, along with something called Say It Straight, which talked a lot about boundaries. So had that foundation, which was really amazing. Go them. And then moving forward, I actually had this really amazing training when I was growing up. It was called Warrior Spirit Training. It was by Jeff Alexander, who taught Sylvester Stallone for the movies.
Oh my God.
For Rocky. And mind you, now that I teach that when I'm talking to kids in schools and I say that, they have blank faces.
Yeah, I know. We just totally aged ourselves.
I know. Yeah, totally dated myself. Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, it's an actor in a big movie.
Yeah, he's really strong.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was a huge moment for me of just seeing how powerful I actually was, because you're fighting against these people who are dressed up. They're called bothans, and they're dressed up in all of this padded gear. And there's something similar to that too that I ended up training in called Impact. And the trainers that I had, it was Impact Personal Safety and Impact Global.
Mm.
They focus on adrenalized training. So they put you in a high adrenaline, high stress scenario, and you have to fight your way out of it. And it really taps into your fear, but it also teaches you to fear less, so I really love that. And additionally, I have training. I'm a level 4 trainer through ESD Global. So ESD Global is a global violence prevention organization. And they go around and they do these really amazing trainings and workshops for people who want to become trainers and teachers in empowerment self-defense. So those were some really cool trainers that I had. In that, I also got to train with Arlene Lemus. She was the first ever female Olympic gold medalist in Taekwondo.
Oh,
and just
so cool.
talk about, just this amazing powerhouse woman. And I had her as a mentor, and she's just got this energy around her where it's like she could take on the world. She's has a company called PAVE Prevention, and they do workplace violence stuff. It's really, really amazing. So I feel like I've gotten to train with some of the best in this work. And I started combining these different pieces. So Johns Hopkins University had, during the pandemic, there were all of these different trainings. Mind you, signing up for the Transformation Academy trainings was like, I need to do this right now during the pandemic, because there were all of these really cool trainings, and now there still are. But Johns Hopkins University had a psychological first aid training. And I thought, wow, this is perfect for a lot of people who have experienced trauma, and it's preventative action so that you don't get post-traumatic stress syndrome. And so I ended up getting training in that, and I combined it with my BA in clinical psychology. So you have all of these different things that you're putting together, along with trauma-informed training, and just fusing it together and seeing what you get. And for me, I really just wanted to create something that was relevant for people every day. I'm not trying to go after the Olympic athlete as my target audience, or somebody who is a boxer, who is a martial artist, although I have had many of them come through and take what I've taught them and bring it to their dojos or their classes. But I want to work with the everyday person, the mom, the female entrepreneur, coaches who want to have these skills and add them to their tool belt, and hopefully be able to pass them along to other people who really need them.
I love that. Tell me more about your Indigenous mentor and the name that you've been given, and why that was so meaningful for you.
Thank you. Yeah. So I ended up finding out that my mom only learned that she was Indigenous at 27 years old. She was told by my grandma, and very long story, but she doesn't look like her sisters. And so she was seeking out, a mentor, someone who could teach her the different ways, Indigenous ways. And she met Doris Peters, who was this amazing Indigenous healer. And Doris traveled throughout the United States and Canada. She was on Oprah. She did Indigenous healing work, and she was able to cure cancer. I mean, she's just this amazing woman, and her hugs were like the best thing ever. And so she adopted my mom, and she adopted me, and basically took us under her wing. And I ended up learning all of these really amazing strategies and tools when it came to energy work that I've encompassed into my self-care practices and trainings. And when you are supposed to get a name, that it takes a really long time to get a name. You don't get a name just right away. You have to earn it. And so my mom was getting her name, and she was 77 at the time that she was getting her name. And the elders actually talked it over and thought, that I should get my name because of the work that I'm doing for women and girls on such a broad scale, and for violence prevention in general and empowerment. So I also live in Lahaina, so a lot of people are like, oh, Lahaina, I know that place. The weekend before the big fire in Lahaina, I actually received my Indigenous name. So it was this huge pivotal moment in my life in so many different ways. And my Indigenous name, they gave it to me, and it was Iyèmote, which means strives for empowerment. I did not bribe anyone for that name. But it was just this amazing piece because they talk about the importance of the name and how you need to honor it and basically take that name and utilize the meaning of it and share it with the world. And so for me, it's just this very synergistic, I'm making up words. It's a lot of synergy when it comes to just having that moment and doing the work that I do in the world, because I believe in empowerment. I believe in empowering others, and I want to do that for the rest of my life. And so that is the story behind the name.
Beautiful. I love that. As an only child of a pretty Americanized family, there's this yearning that I have for deeper culture, deeper roots, deeper connection to something, to my ancestors. And so getting to hear that my friends and my colleagues are like being able to close that gap and have that intimacy and that richness in their life, I just think is so cool. And I'm always encouraging the students at TA to bring these elements of themselves, of their family, of their passions, of whatever makes them unique into their coaching business, because that is how you don't have to pick a niche. You are the niche, right? So I love hearing that.
Yes.
And I'm curious, at what point self-love came to the forefront and was something that you wanted to start teaching on? Because you have a program with TA coming out next month all about self-love, and we're certifying people in becoming self-love coaches. So when did that come into the mix?
Yes. So, with self-care for me, it was really important to delve into that when I realized I needed to focus on my self-healing. Like I said, so many of us want to delve into, I want to coach, I want to teach, I want to do all of these different things, but we don't put our time and energy into ourselves. And so, 10 years ago, I did have an incident. Actually, no, it's not 10. It was 13 years ago. I did have a stalker. So,
oh my gosh,
again,
this life path of yours, Tasha.
And I know, right? So I thought, gosh, what is this about me? And I needed to delve into it and explore, what is this? This person I had never known, never seen before. And I realized that I had been giving all of this energy. And as his coaches, we do that. We give all this energy and time to all of these other people. And what are we, not exploring with ourselves? I realized that for my 20s, that was my MO. I was constantly giving. I was constantly putting a lot of energy into programs and services for other people. I was not focused on myself. So I chose to focus on that for my late 20s and 30s of just doing the healing and the self-care that I needed to, and really taking the extra time, honoring myself when I had a bad day and realizing that that bad day is not going to define the rest of my week. It doesn't, that moment doesn't even necessarily have to define the rest of my day. So making sure that I'm setting up these tools and strategies for myself. I had this really amazing opportunity to do work with a self-care company. It was called She Creates Change. And this woman, she's in Australia now, and she runs a completely different organization. It's a foundation. But she introduced me to this morning routine that really did change my life. And I ended up calling it the 420 rule, which a lot of people hear 420, they think something else. My 420 is a little bit different. It's 20 minutes of reading, 20 minutes of writing, 20 minutes of exercise, 20 minutes of meditation. It could be prayer, or it could be just sitting in affirmations. But you're taking, the 420 rule. It's basically you're taking time in the morning for yourself to activate all areas of your brain and really getting you set to take on the day. And so for me, as I've gone along and done this practice, I've realized that I've had so many healing moments. I think that a lot of us, we don't necessarily realize that, if you have eczema, it can be related to traumatic situations from your past. And if you actually take the time to focus on that healing, that eczema can go away. And a lot of people think, oh, you're going to have it, it's going to be forever. But I had eczema, and it was just crazy. It was like from the neck down. I would get it when I was extremely stressed. And so I just started exploring it through seeing a talk therapist, and also seeing a hypnotherapist, and then working on all of these different self-care practices that I have. And it worked. It was unbelievable. It helped with that. It can help with weight loss. I realized that, for me in a past relationship, I was eating to cope with the situations that I was in. And I realized I didn't need to do that for myself. And so how many times do we do stuff on a day-to-day basis because it's a habit, it's what we know, it's what we knew in order to protect ourselves then, and we still have that habit now. And so it is taking this very hard look at ourselves and saying, okay, what am I going to make a change? How am I going to make a change? What are the steps I'm willing to take to make that drastic change? And that was just the beginning, in 2011, and I haven't stopped. I've just kept going, and I'm always learning new tools, and I'm always adding it to my coaching practices. But I think that it's so important for coaches to just go that extra mile and really do their own work.
I love that. I ran a 6-week sober experiment a couple months ago, and after the initial couple weeks where my body was detoxing the alcohol, and just for anyone who's listening who we haven't connected and you don't know my story yet, it was never like a quantity issue. It was just merely like, oh, I think that it would probably benefit me to drink a little less. And then the realization that I was having a hard time implementing that, that's what set some alarm bells off. I was like, wait. It should be easy to not have a glass of wine with my friends. Why do I feel this draw to it? So 6 weeks turned into almost 3 months now, and I have never been happier in my whole life, like on a cellular, emotional, and spiritual level.
Awesome.
And it feels like one of the biggest acts of self-love that I've ever given myself is just this willingness and bravery to choose different, and then keep choosing different, and then own that the different is actually better. So it feels like a really big next chapter. And I think self-love, I love that you highlighted so many different ways that can be looked at. So I'm really excited for your program. I think that it's going to be a great addition to the TA community. Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you have any advice for new coaches that you wish you had known when you were first starting out?
It's okay to fail. And fail a lot. And try a million different ways of doing things until you find what works for you. You have this idea that you have this beautiful, amazing product or service or program. And if you just show it, then everyone's going to love it. And it's going to, you're going to have just a million people, and you're going to always be busy. And that's not the case. It doesn't work that way. It goes in waves, and you're going to find yourself pivoting. Even when you didn't realize you were pivoting, you're pivoting anyway, or you have to pivot because of the change of times. With the fire experience that we had, I lost 80% of my business, and I had to rebuild. It was really shocking, but it was amazing to see the growth from just that time to now, from all of my online work that I've done. So it's possible for you to be able to be very successful at the work that you do, but you have to be willing to put yourself out there. I love Brene Brown's Daring Greatly book, where she talks about, the man in the arena. And she says, it's easy for people to talk who are outside of the arena. But when you're in there, you're doing the work. Yes, you're going to have criticism, but are they doing what you're doing? Are they putting themselves out there the way that you're putting yourself out there? Give yourself credit. Give yourself that extra, oomph of like, okay, yes, it might not be exactly how I wanted to present it, but I presented it. It might not be the way that I wanted to put my stuff out there, but I put it out there. And then you can just build off of that. And it's going to take time. It's going to take effort. But believe me when I say that it pays off. And it pays off in a big way.
Not just financially. Like the person that you become by being someone who continues to show up when other people would have given up is worth so much more than any amount of money that you can make in your coaching business. Although if you keep showing up, you will inevitably make money in your coaching business.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is true.
I love the saying, failure is only feedback. It's like, one of my mentors talks about this concept of fear goals. So if you have a specific fear around posting something, being visible, launching, investing, whatever it is, whatever that fear is, make that the goal. And so like post as many times as it takes before you get your first troll or your first negative comment. Invest as much as you can until you like lose money on your investment or whatever, because what's also going to happen in the process is that by investing, whether it's ad spend or into a mentor or whatever, you're going to reap some rewards as well. You'll get data, you'll get feedback, you'll get clients. And so in the process of shooting for our fear goals, we're actually going to accomplish some of our truly desired goals.
Yes, exactly.
Well, Tasha, where can people...
That's why I tell people to
fear
less.
Say it again.
To fear less, so when be fearless, the idea of it, instead of just not having fear, you can fear, but fear less.
I love that.
Yeah.
Where can people go follow you, get more of you, and stay up to date on your offerings?
Absolutely. So that is at ElleLiveAction, ElleLiveAction. And you can find my website by just putting a .com on it. You can send an email at that and then at gmail.com. You can see any of my social media, and it's at ElleLiveAction.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Tasha, so much for sharing your story with us. And I can't wait to see your brand new program with TA. It's going to be epic.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on here. This is awesome.
Amazing! Thank you so much to Tasha for joining on today's episode. If you want to get access to the resources that we shared today, head over to theprofitablecoach.com/042 for episode 42. And if you're not already following us on Instagram, head over to Transformation Academy Online or at the Kimberly Rich. We love hearing from you. If you have specific topics that you want to see on the show, let us know. Let us know what you are currently growing in your coaching business, what you're currently struggling with. We want to create as much value for you as possible. So thank you so much for listening. We are sending you so much love, and we'll catch you on next week's episode.